you do when your child comes home and has been teased or bullied, and do you help them cope or let them cope? Is that right?
Yes.
So that would depend also very much on things that I wouldn't know, like the child, the family, the situation, what actually happened. There are a couple of things I can say generally, and I don't know if it would be specific enough, but first, there's a ton of stuff these days that's getting called bullying, that's just what kids do. Your kid elbows mine on the way to the soccer ball in the playground is not bullying. A consistent pattern of subjecting somebody to some real abuse, that's different. Right? If we confuse the two and treat even little events like they were big ones, then we run the risk actually of making kids less resilient, because we're essentially keep saying to them, I know you can't cope with this, dear. You know? There was some research done years ago, not about bullying, but it's very interesting. It was about temperament. There's a very small group of children who are born who are extremely shy, and who actually, there are markers during the pregnancy now that help to predict this some. And we're not just talking about shy, we're talking about really shy. And in a couple of experiments that have been done, when those children, as they go through their preschool years, are treated with special kid gloves, they stay more locked in the shyness. When the parents, particularly the mothers, they mostly do the research on mothers, are sensitive, but more likely to say some version of, I know you can do this. And then to be there to help the child, but I know you can do this, rather than, oh, let me do that for you because I don't think you can. That this actually helps them come out of it. And in a sense, it's being, if you will, a little bit tougher. But what it's also conveying is some confidence, which the child can begin to absorb. And of course, there's nothing to make you feel better like being able to actually do it. So in terms of to intervene or not, it would depend on the situation and how serious and how repetitive and so on. And you're never going to want a child to be exposed to a consistent pattern of mistreatment and stuff like that, and gross unfairness. But there are a number of things that kids have to learn to cope with. Plus, it has to be said, many of you who are older, would you see the hands of the firstborn in the room? Right, so all of us with our hands up, we know that the world was once excellent. Then they said, we love you so much, we're going to get another one. But a lot of us know that occasionally we got in trouble for letting the younger one have it because they drove us nuts. I mean, the kids who ask for it. And there are actually, the bullying dynamic is often much harder to sort out because, there's often more to it than meets the eye. So if we could agree that the really gross examples of consistent mistreatment have to need adult help, I prefer to start out by, it depends on the age of the kid, but one way you help a child become more resilient is this. You don't race to fix everything that happens to them, especially small things. And in fact, you try not to do anything for the child that he or she can do him or herself. So for example, let me use a different example. The child comes home and says, the coach is unfair, and he's playing kids ahead of me who aren't as good as I am. So you can do what a lot of dads do these days. You take the kid literally, you get on the phone, you call the coach and get after him. Or what other dads do, which is not get after him, but call up and want to talk about it. Or if you were interested in building resilience, here's what you might do. You'd say something like this. Gosh, tell me about that. You get a little more detail about the apparent unfairness. And then you say, gee, what do you think you're going to do? The kid has no idea or a bad idea. Help him out. You don't withhold. But if you race to fix it, you make things easier, but you don't build the strength. And the way I think of this is this. We spend often too much time trying to prepare the path for the child instead of preparing the child for the path. And if you're seriously interested about resilience, you want to try to prepare the child for the path, which means you don't leave them unprotected, but you don't hover and overprotect. Sometimes it's hard to know where the balance is, and then it's great to talk to somebody else about it, somebody at school or a friend or a pediatrician or whatever, and try to figure out what you need to do. The more it's a pattern, the more I get worried. The more it's just an incident, the more likely I am to want them to figure it out.